Hello everybody, it is Sunday afternoon here, time for another Show Off Sunday video. We'll talk a little bit first about what made me decide to do this one for the Sunday video. I was hoping to do one last week. I'm going to be showing off some of the unsigned older stuff that I've got that was part of my dad's collection. And well, unfortunately, as I was getting ready to set it all up, I discovered I couldn't find the slabbed ones that we had, which were some big names in there. Try to move this a little bit there so we don't have so much, don't have TV coming through there, but yeah, there we go. Got the Indians and Tigers on in the background right now, but so anyways, I was going to go and show those off, and I couldn't find where the slabbed ones went, and I literally went through every single thing along these shelves over here trying to find where they went. My wife and I pretty much tore the apartment down trying to find where these things were. Turns out they were sitting right in here the entire time. I mean, I probably looked right at them 6 different times. They're slightly under something a little there, but yeah. Right where I'd left them, I mean, I'm just like, oh my god, okay, well, I know they're in the apartment somewhere, because, I mean, I haven't taken them anywhere else, and then I just happened to look at them, and I just start just about dying laughing when I see that, yeah, they're just sitting right there. So, we're going to do that one another time, but right now, yesterday I did an interview. It took like 2 hours on this interview with a hockey-related podcast called Fourth Line Voice. My friend Darren runs it. I'll put a link in the description here so you can go and check it out as well, but Fourth Line Voice mostly talks to anybody who's into hockey fights, whether it's, former fighters that are out there, whether it's fans. And so since I used to be a broadcaster in the North American Hockey League, he said, hey, let's, get a broadcaster's viewpoint on there. And so we talked about a whole bunch of stuff, hockey fights, some of the old time stuff on the hockey fight message boards back when those were around. God, what else? I mean, stuff in the NAHL, of course, and we got into autographs a little bit. And so one of the things we talked about was the, don't remember if it was during our interview or kind of afterward there, we ended up talking a little bit about the Fleer Throwbacks hockey set. And that's a set that I've been working on trying to get signed for a number of years, and so I figured, you know what? Perfect timing for a Show Off Sunday video, so I'm going to just go ahead and break out the entire old-time hockey binder right here, which has, 2 sets that I'm working on, and one that I've completed that's not quite so old-time, but we'll go ahead and show that one off anyway while we're at it. In fact, I think I'm going to go ahead and start with that one. We're going to kind of work our way from the less cool stuff into the more cool stuff here, basically. But the first set that I ever completed, getting totally autographed, was the 2003-2004 Choice brand AHL Top Prospect set. I picked it up when I went to a Cleveland Barons game when I was back home from college during my sophomore year. Picked it up and, got a couple signed right after the NHL finally returned from their lockout in the 05-06 season. It's like, you know what? I'm going to see how many I can get signed. I'll just, go through the entire set as best I can. It's only 45 players. That seems, fairly doable. And finally, a couple years ago, I was able to complete the entire thing. Some were in person, some were through trade, some were by mail. Go ahead and show those off real quick. I mean, like I said, it's only a 45-card set, so not a whole ton to really have to go through on this. But some of these guys' names you may have heard of. A few of them made it to the NHL. A lot of them never did. There's a few who end up disappearing back to Europe not long after this. But I'll just name off a few, and I'll show off some of the better ones here whenever I come across them. But I think here the first big name that I can really think of, Brad Boyes had a few good years in the NHL with, he came up originally in the San Jose org because he was in the Cleveland Barons in this set. Also played for the Boston Bruins while I was living up in Boston. I think he was actually involved possibly in the Joe Thornton trade, I want to say, maybe. But I would have gotten this one signed in person while he was in Boston. Went on, of course, to the St. Louis Blues as well after that. But there you go, that's Brad Boyes, and he was one of the first ones that I got done in that set. Let's see here. A couple of the names. I mean, everybody knows the name Ilya Bryzgalov. He's a little bit of a nut there, but got him. He's with the Cincinnati Mighty Ducks in there. Of course, went on to be a goalie for the Flyers. I think is what he's probably known best for, was his time there. Let's see. We've got Peter Budaj of the Hershey Bears. Went up to the Colorado Avalanche for a number of seasons. Saying Colorado Avalanche got my wife's attention. A few other names here. Yeah, she's not exactly in the best mood about them after yesterday's game, so we'll just avoid that for now. Moving on, Carlo Koliakovo, something like that. Played for the Leafs for a number of years. One of the tougher ones in the set was both, well, in terms of both hard to get as an autograph and as in terms of toughness in general, was Ray Emery. Signed quite a bit early in his career there when he was with Ottawa, really kind of hated signing not long after that, though, and died fairly young, unfortunately, in a boating accident a couple of years ago, if I remember right. Let's see, I've got Curtis Foster in here, played up with the Wild for a number of years. Got that one by mail. That one I do remember how I got it. kind of can be tough to remember, which ones I got by mail, which ones were in person, which ones are by trade, and all that. Chris Higgins right here is another one that came in person there. Actually got that, I believe, the first week that the NHL finally returned from the 04-05 lockout. The Bruins played against the Canadiens that first game, and so I was able to get Higgins and right below him, Mike Komisarek. Oh, let's see, going through here, trying to see what other... Oh, Ryan Kessler, of course, would be another pretty big name that's in there. That one I picked up at the NAHL in 2014. Got it for a couple bucks, not too bad of a deal there. Oh, let's see here. The very last one I was able to get, which finally finished off the set for me, was this Nicholas Kronwall. Got that from a friend of mine's brother, a guy that I actually did some, knew from the autograph world in Boston. The crazy thing is we never met in person. He started graphing just after I'd left Boston. But he was directed to me to find out some info about, how to go about graphing in there. He became one of the kind of more well-known graphers, I guess, in the Boston area there. And so that was part of his brother's collection there, and he traded that off to me. Who else do we have in here? Kari Lehtinen, of course. I mean, everybody knows Kari was one of the top, I think, second overall or third overall. Second overall pick in the 02 draft. Played for the Thrashers for a long time, ended up coming here to the Dallas Stars. And,
Sorry, something in my throat. Sorry.
The hell's that supposed to mean?
You know what I think about the Stars right now?
Okay, yeah, okay. I just want to make sure you weren't saying about Lehtinen, because...
No, he's a good guy, but...
Damn right he's a good guy.
He's a good guy. He's Finnish. He's awesome. But curse word, the team he played for.
There you go. So, Kari Lehtinen right there. Yeah, one of my favorites. I mean, we're not exactly big Dallas Stars fans in this household, despite living, less than 20 minutes from them. But he was one that I actually did like on the Stars. So, really great signer as well in person. Let's see here. Who else do we have? Ryan Miller was another one of the earlier ones I was able to get signed in person. Kind of tough to see on the blue jersey there, but it looks a lot better in person there than on camera. I mentioned a lot of guys that end up going back over to Europe or just, never made it to the NHL. Try to see if I can find some of them. I don't seem to remember, Denis Grabeshkov being in North America for very long. I think that's when I probably had to trade for at some point. Let's see here. Another Finn that didn't stay in North America for long was Jani Rita. Was able to pick that one up, probably in a trade at some point. Let's see here. Jason Pominville was by mail. Derek Roy was in person. I think Patrick Sharp may have been in person. He's another one that I got. There's the Derek Roy while we're at it. And I think Patrick Sharp probably was in person, but I'm not sure. It may have been a trade. Either way, he was here with the Stars for a while, and so I was able to get him a couple times in person. But, yeah, it wasn't on this one, I know. I got this one signed well before that. Let's see here. Anu Toivonen was another favorite of mine. Several Finnish goalies in here, and, being half Finnish, that's always a big fan of those guys. But Toivonen I definitely got in person outside the Bruins arena at some point, probably after a random morning skate in that 05-06 season. Let's see. And yeah, I got Jeff Wojciechowski by mail, if I remember right. That one there. He's the last card in the set there. But yeah, a lot of guys that, there's, a couple guys that made it big, like, Kari Lehtinen. There's a couple guys who made it for a while but didn't last long, like Hannu Toivonen. And there's, a few who really never really exactly made it to the NHL. If they either never made it all or didn't make it for long. Guys like Justin Mappletoft, Johnny Pohl, all those. So, there you go. That's the AHL Top Prospect set. Now let's go ahead and get into the old-time stuff. So, I'm going to leave that Fleer Throwback set for last because that's it's one of my favorite sets that's been put out possibly ever. So, we'll wait on that one. But first, we're going to go with the Topps and O-Pee-Chee archive set from the 01-02 season. So what they did was, Topps at that point was, starting to do archive sets for baseball. They were doing they started doing the heritage sets for baseball. And so they started doing heritage hockey as well. And they did an archive set for hockey too. And so with the archive set, what they did was they took a whole bunch of Hall of Famers and just, well-known players' rookie cards, reprinted them glossy with this gold foil Topps Archives logo on it, and then just sold those in packs, and I was able to pick up a set for cheap. So here's an example of one of them that's unsigned because Jacques Plante died years before this card would have come out. But you can see the gold foil logo up there in the corner. And so that's how you can differentiate between the archives ones and the original releases. I mean, besides the fact that, sure you can tell they're super glossy as well. So, but they did, how many cards was this? 80, I believe. 81 cards in it. So the great thing is it fits right into 9 pages in a binder very cleanly and easily. So good for them on that. But yeah, it had a lot of Hall of Famers on it, in it. Fortunately, many of them were still alive at the time that they printed the cards. I think there's only maybe 3 who died before the cards were printed. So I'll go through and show off some of those. Like, for example, we have Andy Bathgate. This was acquired by mail, Hall of Famer. A little shaky there. It was late in his life that he signed that one, but came through with it nonetheless, and very happy with that. Let's see, card numbers 2 and 3. We'll go ahead and show off a couple of former Blackhawks here. Got both of these signed by mail as well. They are Bill Gadsby and Tony Esposito. Espo still alive and signing. Gadsby, if I remember right, died a few years ago, but Espo was signed by mail, I think $10 a card or so, and so I was able to finally knock this one out almost a year ago, I think. Let's see, moving on down. Harry Howell, also unfortunately no longer with us, but was a very good signer by mail. Would personalize everything, as you see right there. The first one that I got in person out of this, well, going through in this order at least, the first one to come up that I got in person was Larry Robinson. Huge defenseman there. Signed that while he was working with the New Jersey Devils at one point. Signed it in Boston for me. Going across the bottom row here, we'll go with the first 2 here with reprints from the 57-58 set of a couple of Blackhawks guys from the back end. We've got goalie Glenn Hall and defenseman Pierre Pilote. Both were solid TTMers. Pilote no longer with us. Hall, not sure if he signs anymore or not, unfortunately. If he does, he may only do it for about $5 or so. I mean, I got him for free when I tried him there, but yeah. Dale Hunter, another very solid signer. He's with the London Knights up in the Ontario Hockey League as their owner, I believe. Might be coach, not sure. I know he does something with them, or at least did something with them recently. I think he's owner, but I'm not totally sure there. Moving on, we've got Norm Ullman, Hall of Famer as well. Signs in Canada, $5 an item. He was free for a long time, so I was able to get him on this one and got him on a few others over the years before he finally started charging. Not real sure about this one, unfortunately. This is Brian Trottier. Has looks more like he just initialed it more than actually signed it. It's weird. I've tried mailing this card to him twice, and both times he kept it and sent back a preprint. So I had to pick this one up in a trade, and I'm really not sure about that one, but it's a placeholder at least for now. It looks kind of like he initialed it almost more than anything. Don't know if he's got something against signing the rookie reprints or something, but yeah, what can you do? We got Alex Delvecchio right here. Alex Delvecchio was one of the first ever hockey autographs I ever got, actually. This was not the card that I got signed at that time, but got this one by mail a few years ago, probably around 2007, 2008, somewhere in there. But back around 1993 or 94, I met him at a card show in Jackson, Michigan. He signed a puck for me there, so I've still got that somewhere. Let's see, Neil Broughton, solid TTM signer there for a while, through his home up in, I think it's Roseau, Minnesota. Member of the American Hockey Hall of Fame. 2 guys across the bottom here, they're mostly known as Bruins. John Busick and Rick Middleton. Both solid signers by mail. Busick also actually started his career with the Detroit Red Wings. Nifty Middleton, of course, as you see here, started as a Ranger, later went on to the Bruins. And I think was probably best known as a Bruin throughout his career. Moving on to the next page, I think Bobby Clark was the very first one that I ever got signed for this set at all. Got this one through the mail when he was still signing free through the Flyers. This was years ago. He's been about a $10 an item signer more recently. One that I never expected I'd be able to get, but when I saw him signing, I had to go for it and got it back, was Billy Smith. Battlin' Billy, the Islanders goalie. Took about a week through his home in Florida. I don't think he's signing much anymore. He never liked signing for a long time, so I just happened to hit the window just right on that one. Peter Stastny also no longer really signing a whole lot, but he did for a long time through his home in the St. Louis area. Let's see here. Across the middle row, we'll go with Tim Kerr first. Still a good signer by mail. 2 guys that I've, one that I got in person, one that I've seen in person, but never got this one done then, but finally got it by mail, was Andy Moog and Jerry Cheevers. Cheevers I got up in Boston. You see him occasionally outside of the Bruins arena after a morning skate. And Moog lives right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He's done a few alumni signings there with the Stars, but each time that he did one, I didn't know he was going to be at it, so I wasn't able to take this card with me, and eventually I said, you know what, forget it, I'm just going to mail it and go that way, and finally got it done. We've got Dennis Hull down here. Got this one in a trade signed in ballpoint pen on the side there, but still came out pretty good. Not complaining at all. I mean, usually a ballpoint pen doesn't show up well on a glossy card like that, but somehow his did, and it's like, hey, all right, I'm perfectly good with that. Go with the tough guy across the bottom, because like I said, that podcast I was on was mostly about the fighters, and they put this guy's WHA rookie card in there, but the great Nick Fatiou, one of the toughest fighters you'll find of the 70s and 80s. I've actually got a jersey with his name on it. He was an assistant coach with the Cleveland Barons there for a couple of years, and I was hoping to get the jersey signed there, and never was lucky enough to do so. I've tried mailing him twice. He's signed cards for me both times, but when I put in a note there asking, hey, do you mind if I send this jersey? I never get a response. So I might just try, just throw caution to the wind, mail it out there, hope for the best. It's just a regular replica jersey with his name and number on it, so not a huge loss if it doesn't come back, but considering I know he's a good signer, probably will. Marcel Dion, he owns a framing shop just over the Canadian border. He'll sign your items, $10 each. He also puts in a certificate of authenticity with it. Unfortunately, I don't have it in here with this, but it's somewhere over in one of my boxes here. Another solid signer up in Montreal is Guy Lafleur. Got that by mail. Got Yvonne Cornoyer and Brian Mullen both in person in Boston. We'll show these off real quick. Cornoyer, a Hall of Famer. Brian Mullen is a brother of a Hall of Famer. Yeah, Brian Mullen was a broadcaster with the Rangers for a while and didn't TTM at all, but if you saw him in person, he would sign everything you had, so I've got him on a few cards. Cornoyer just happened to be there when I got the, talking about that first weekend after the lockout where I was able to get the Canadians cards in that AHL set signed. Cornoyer just happened to be traveling with the team as well for it. Who else? Henri Richard was there as well, and we saw both of them at the hotel, and they both were great signers for us. Wayne Cashman's another TTMer. This one, I was able to find his address in Florida, and I had heard from a few people that, yeah, he'll sign like $5-10 each, but figured, all right, let's go for it. Threw in 2 cards, threw in $10. A month later, they came back to me, so there you go. Steve Shutt, signed by mail, personalized down. He actually lives in Alabama, of all places now. Owns a refrigeration company down there. He's from Toronto originally, but yeah. Moving on down, we've got Ed Johnston, Bruins goalie. Signed that one TTM, ballpoint pen at the very top, you can see there. Back to the tough guys once again. We've got Clark Gillies right there. That one, I believe, was a TTM. Doesn't seem to be TTMing much anymore. When he did, he finally, he originally was a 1-per signer, then started doing $10 an item, and now it doesn't look like he's really doing any signing at all from what I've seen. Rick McLeish, I don't remember if that was TTM or if it was a trade, one or the other. I think it was a TTM, but yeah, not sure on that. Dennis Potvin, not a solid TTMer, but very good in person if you come across him at any point. He's been involved in broadcasting the last few years. He's been with Ottawa, with the Panthers. If you ever send to him, he seems to favor large envelopes. If you send him, just a card, you're probably not going to get it back. But I mailed him, you may remember when I showed off my big 11x14 photos up in the box up here, that he did sign one of those for me. And that was through the mail. At his Hall of Fame year and everything came out great. So, yeah, Potvin, not real big on the small envelopes, it seems. But try him out if you got a big item. Moving on, speaking of broadcasters, we've got Bill Clement. Clement, Hands of Cement. Probably remember that commercial, I'm hoping at least. We've got Daryl Sittler, famous for a 10-point game. Personalizes everything, but he was, not sure if he still signs, but I know for a long time he was a very good signer at 1 item per person, personalized, but you'll get it back. Pierre LaRouche, one of the early top players for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Had a couple big seasons for them. Vic Hadfield, took me a couple tries on this one. Of what I had heard, he wasn't really much of a signer, but started TTMing at one point, and so sent that one to Canada and got it back. Derek Sanderson, not exactly a good TTM signer, but used to see him also along with Jerry Cheevers in person in Boston, so got him on that one. Reggie Leach, this one I believe was a TTM to Canada, if I remember right. I get him and McLeish mixed up as to which one is which, but yeah. Brian Propp, another guy who's been involved in some broadcasting. Solid signer by mail, very good signer in person as well. He Actually, of what I heard, had a stroke a couple of years ago and had to start learning how to sign left-handed, but his autograph still looks good, even left-handed now, from what I've seen. I've got Barry Melrose. Everybody loves Barry Melrose. I mean, come on. And all right, let's move on to the next page here. We've got Danny Gare, Darren Pang. Gare was a trade pickup, I believe, and Panger here I got signed in person. Saw him when he was broadcasting for the Coyotes. Also saw him again at the NHL draft here in Dallas a couple of years ago. Let's see. Also got Hall of Famer Dick Duff and coach, mostly known as a coach, but longtime defenseman, Joel Quenneville as well. Quenneville signed it in silver. Still comes out pretty decent there, though. I actually have a Duff that I picked up in a trade first, and then I figured, you know what? I've got another copy. I'll TTM him, and actually got a better autograph on that one than on the one I traded for. So definitely happy with that. Both solid TTMers. Got Ed Westfall, another very good TTMer. This one I always like. Johnny Bauer played a long time in Cleveland with the original Cleveland Barons, and I got him in person at a game when they retired his number there when the Barons first returned back in 2002. Didn't have this card at the time yet, but I got it TTM'd eventually. So there you go. Kind of makes me mad. One of the other guys that was there that night for the Bauer celebration was this guy, John Ferguson, whom, as you see, I don't have it signed. He died a couple of years later, prostate cancer battle, if I remember correctly. But he was there in signing, and I missed out on him. He got up to leave literally right before I got up to his spot at the table. So missed out on Fergie, and yeah, never got him by mail or anything like that. I do have him for a couple other items, though, so I've at least got some trade bait to hopefully find somebody who's got this one signed. Moving along, we've got Serge Savard right there as well. That was another trade pickup, I believe. 3 more pages left to go on this particular set. Let's see. I might show off the entire page right here. It's Ken Hodge, Gary Unger, Lindy Ruff, Glenn Resch, Chico, Lauren Worsley, Gump, Bernie Federico, Mike Foligno, and Mike Schmidt. Most of these were TTM pickups. Gump Worsley was in a trade. Lindy Ruff was in person. But yeah, the rest of these here were all TTM editions. Hold those up right there. Hopefully you can see all those pretty clearly. Hodge, Unger, and Ruff across the top. Resch, Worsley, and Federico in the middle. And, of course, Foligno and Schmidt at the bottom. Missing a card out of the corner there, though, so cover that up. Let's see. Next page we've got Ron Lowe was a fairly recent trade pickup. Didn't use the best pen on it ever, but you can at least see it there. I got Jacques Lemaire in person. Dave the Hammer Schultz, TTM'd. Solid signer at $10 an item. There. Also got Glenn Sather, who I got both in person and by mail at various times. There we go. And across the bottom we've got Mike Milbury, Terry O'Reilly, and Red Kelly. Terry O'Reilly I think may have been the first one I got for this set, because I'm trying to think. I think Clark came in a week before I got O'Reilly. Clark was by mail. O'Reilly was the first one that I ever got signed in person out of this set. But he was an assistant coach with the New York Rangers at the time. And O'Reilly was always interesting whenever he would sign. He was willing to sign anything for anyone, it seemed like, especially there at the hotel in Boston. But what he would do is he would take items in order. He'd say, okay, if you have cards, we're going to take cards first. And anybody who had cards, come up, he'll sign the cards. Say, okay, we're good on cards? Cool. Okay, photos next. And he would do all the photos that people had next. Then it would be, jerseys, then sticks, then pucks. And basically, once all that was done, it's like, all right, last call. Anybody else? Okay, cool, we're good. Best way of handling it that I've ever seen out of any player. So major kudos to him on being a great signer and having his own very solid system there for all that. Final page of this set, we've got a couple of Flyers tough guys right across the top. One definitely tougher than the other, but Paul Holmgren and Ken the Rat Linseman. You may remember I got the Rat back recently by mail as well. I'd already gotten this one signed courtesy of my friend Russ, who knows Kenny pretty well and was able. He said, "Hey, if you've got anything you want him to sign, send it my way." And so, yeah, I've got 6 cards here. He's like, "Yeah, no problem, send them all." And so he got those and a bunch of other Bruins alumni for me. Let's see here. We've got Bobby Smith. We've got Bobby Hull is one of the big ones here. Bobby Hull was my dad's favorite player as a kid, and so sent a couple of cards and a photo off to Hull just before my dad's 60th birthday, and I mentioned in my letter to Hull, I said, hey, my dad was a huge fan of yours back in the day. His birthday's coming up. Would you mind, personalizing, signing this photo for him? And so didn't receive it back for a while. I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's not going to get here in time. And I think it was literally 2 weeks before my dad's birthday. It comes back not only signed, but he signs it to Hal, Happy 60th, Bobby Hull, Hall of Fame 1983 on it. It's like, whoa, that came out really awesome. So I was able to send that on to him, and yeah. Across the bottom row, we've got Pat LaFontaine, Pete Mahovlich, and Mike Gartner. You might see this Gartner come up again later at some point. I have the original of it signed as well. Now, they did the O-Pee-Chee version for this one, as you can see, with the French writing on the back. I have his Topps version, which unfortunately was the one that had the scratch-off on the name right down here. And it is scratched off, but I mean, I was able to get... I picked it up for like 50 cents unsigned. So, Hall of Fame rookie for 50 cents, even if it's the scratched-off version there. Yeah, I'll gladly take that. And then I got it signed later on, so... I'm sure you'll see that whenever I decide to show off some of my Hall of Fame autographs there. But yeah, as I said, Pat LaFontaine, Pete Mahovlich in there as well. And so that comes to the end of that set. 25 minutes in, not too bad. Should keep this under an hour. But let's go on now, finally, into the big one. This is the 2002-2003 Fleer Throwbacks set. And this is a set that really kind of featured the Enforcers, Tough Guys, and a lot of fan favorites in there. And it was actually put together by Joe Lozito, who is a... he's been big in the hockey fight world. He's a huge New York Islanders fan. He may run his own podcast as well. I know Darren had mentioned that to me, that he's done some stuff with that too. Good friend of Mick Vukoda, who's one of the guys who's in the set there as well. But yeah, so 92 cards in this. 90 of them were alive when the set came out. And so far, I've been able to get 77 out of them signed. So we'll go ahead and show off some of those guys. But let's go ahead and show the entire first page here as a whole. But it's got Terry O'Reilly, Barry Beck, Bobby Clark, Mike Foligno, Danny Gare, Clark Gillies, Bernie Federko, Dale Hunter, and Chris King. There you go. Nice crisp white border design on there with the team color going around it. Team logo there as well. O'Reilly was signed in person in Boston. Barry Beck, I had to TTM all the way over to Hong Kong, where he's actually in charge of the Hong Kong Hockey Federation. So I was able to send that over there, sent I think like $5 postage, got it back. Bobby Clark was, I think, the very first one that I got signed for this one once again. This was in person at the Flyers Hotel in Boston. And as you can see from the bubbling there, that's how I learned quickly that, oh yeah, these cards need some extra prep work done to them to get a good signature on them. You see the same thing on the Gillies card there. I picked this one up in a trade at fairly recently from Larry Lutz, I believe. Danny Gare was a trade at some point. Foligno, Federko, King, and Hunter were all by mail. Moving on to the next page, we've got the late Ted Lindsay. This is just one of my favorite cards right here. I mean, he's got him with the Stanley Cup right there. Signing a great spot there. And with Ted Lindsay, when he was around, he was a great signer. He'd sign whatever you send, and you'd also probably get a pamphlet on his career that he'd sign as well. Great stuff there. I've got Ty Domi in the set. Domi actually was, we ended up talking a little bit about him on in the podcast there. I think it was in the podcast, either in the podcast or just after it. Hopefully it's in the podcast, and you can listen to it there if you want. Rob Ramage, who I just got back recently. This is one that I sent out back around maybe 2008, 2009, something like that. We've got Jim Schoenfeld, Steve Smith, Harold Snepts. Rod Langway, you may remember that one from a few weeks ago there, that it took me a couple of years to get this one back. Dennis Potvin and John Busick, all in there and all signed. I think so. Ty Domi was a trade that a friend was able to get me in Ontario. Rob Ramage, like I said, was TTM. Middle row there, all guys by mail. And the bottom row, Potvin was the only in-person SIG out of those. The other two were by mail. All right, the next page, there's actually two guys off at the top of the page here that I am missing so far. So we'll leave this page. I will just show each individual one here instead. But Stan Smile, yeah, whatever it is. He's got him by mail. He actually still works with the Vancouver Canucks, if I remember right. Andre the Moose Dupont signs through his home in Quebec City, I believe. It's somewhere in Quebec, at least. I think it's Quebec City. The late Todd Ewan, he was a great signer when he was alive. Unfortunately, he died a number of years ago. I believe it was a suicide, unfortunately, but signed a great photo there of him with biting the puck and gave me a good signature right there at the bottom. George McPhee used to work in the Capitals front office. I believe he's now the GM of the Vegas Golden Knights. But I had a friend who was able to get that one for me when he was in Washington. Both McPhee was there and the friend was there, so worked out well. Guy who's going to come up a lot in that the podcast interview is my former boss, Paul Baxter. Had a 409 penalty minutes season in the 81-82 season for the Penguins. Let's see, and across the bottom right here we've got Kevin Kaminsky. Kevin Kaminsky. Right there. Mostly a minor league tough guy. Got up a little bit with the Nordiques and Capitals, and actually looks like, yeah, a game with the North Stars as well. I remember him from his time with the Las Vegas Thunder when he and Cleveland Lumberjacks goalie Derek Wilkinson went at it very briefly before everybody else piled in. I mentioned before I got Mike Peluso a few weeks ago. This is one that I got a number of years ago when I had mailed him before. Also at the top of the page here, we have Dave Semenko. Cement had signed this one by mail in pen. Unfortunately, I believe he died a couple of years ago as well. One that I'm probably never going to be able to get signed, and unfortunately, is David Maley. For some reason, you may remember I showed this one a couple weeks ago when I got him back. He refused to sign this card, and I don't know why. I asked him in the letter why not. He didn't give any reason or anything like that. Don't know. There's a couple other guys who are similar to that, and we'll get to them here in a moment. But across the middle row here, we've got Jeff Bukaboom, Dave Brown, and Troy Crowder. There we go, Bukaboom, Brown, and Crowder. Bukaboom and Brown were both TTMs. Troy Crowder I had to be able to snag in a trade. Not much of a TTMer. Doesn't seem to like signing a whole lot, but he did an event in the Detroit area, and somebody was able to help me out with that. And across the bottom of the page, I showed you a Bobby Hull one earlier. I've got another one right here of him. Interestingly enough, he signed a different number on each one. He was, of course, known mostly for wearing 9. Signed this one with number 7. And then he signed the other one with 16, which I'm guessing he probably wore as a rookie or something like that. But, yeah, kind of interesting there. Not sure if he wore 7 at one point, and if he did, for how long it was, but apparently he did. Also got Dave Maloney and Jimmy Mann, or Dan Maloney and Jimmy Mann. It was Dave, Dan, and Don Maloney. It gets a little confusing there after a while, but Dan was definitely the toughest fighter out of all of them. Jimmy Mann, Nordiques. And let's move on to this next page here. John Wensink isn't exactly an easy TTM SIG either, but he actually does some stuff with the St. Louis Blues alumni, and so the Blues alumni and the Stars alumni played a game down here in Dallas a couple of years ago, and so they had members of both squads signing outside, so I was able to get Wensink that way. Also, you'll see Kim Claxton right there, who I believe was traded for Paul Baxter at one point, that I mentioned before. Clacker signed by mail, personalizes, signs in pen. Comes out all right, though. Get on in there. There we go. So middle row here, we've got Jay Wells, Glenn Cochran, and Alan May. Show off the Wells and the May first, and then we'll talk a little bit about Glenn Cochran. But there you go. So, as I was saying, Glenn Cochran. This actually is Glenn Cochran's rookie card. He had never had a nationally released card before this one came out. And the guy played from 78 to 89. So, fairly long career, 411 games, 1,500 plus penalty minutes. But, yeah, mostly known as a fighter out there. His best point season was only 24 points with 237 penalty minutes that year. He had a season of 329 minutes the year before that. But, yeah, never managed to get himself onto a regular card. A couple regional releases there, like there's a Kraft Dinner card that he's on. And so I mailed this off to him. He's actually working as a scout with, I believe, the Anaheim Ducks. And unfortunately signed it in black ballpoint pen. Doesn't exactly look... It looks better in person than it does on camera, that's for sure. But I wish I had picked up another copy of it because I ended up seeing him at the NHL draft a couple weeks later, or a couple months later, here in Dallas. He signed that Kraft Dinner card for me there, but yeah, I wish I'd had another copy there to get that one signed too. But, oh well, I might try him again here by mail or something and see what happens. Across the bottom row, we have, Kevin McClellan, Jim Cummins, and Willie Plett. Plett and Cummins were both by mail. McClellan I had to pick up in a trade. We'll just show that bottom row off right there. McClellan actually coached quite a bit in the CHL, several teams here in in the southwestern part of the U.S. All right, next page here, Basil McRae. Razzle Dazzle Basil. A small signature there in that area. He's actually been working with a couple of Canadian junior teams as well, and I think he was actually with the Blues recently as a scout too. I mentioned John Ferguson earlier. I was able to pick this one up off eBay, fortunately, to fill in a spot in the set. Been on the lookout for that Archives one, but no such luck on that one just yet. And like I said, I've got another card that I can use for some trade bait, possibly, if somebody out there has it. Middle row here has Gord Donnelly, Nick Kiprios, and Larry Playfair. All of those guys were through the mail. Across the bottom, there's Marty McSorley, Tim Hunter, and Billy Smith. I'm going to get into the Tim Hunter one here in a moment, but let's go ahead and show those bottom two rows off. Tim Hunter, for a long time, was known for not signing this card, and it's something that we brought up in the podcast there a bit. So one of three players that for a long time were said to not sign their cards in there, Maley being one, Hunter being second, and we'll get to a third one here in a bit. But, yeah, the reason I had heard was that Hunter, at the time that he was put in this set, I believe was an assistant coach with the Washington Capitals. And from what I think may have happened in this was he got fired mid-season by the Capitals. And so being a coach at the time, I believe he was supposed to be paid royalties for appearing on this card by the NHL Players Association. When he got fired as the coach, I believe it happened after the card was printed, but before the card was released. And so he's saying, well, I was on this card, I should be getting paid royalties by you guys for it, because he didn't sign like a regular contract the way the individual players who were no longer playing or coaching or anything like that would have. And the Players Association said, well, tough, it came out after you got fired, we don't owe you anything. And Fleer would have been like, well, you didn't sign a deal with us, so we paid your royalties to the Players Association. And so because ultimately Hunter got nothing out of it, for a long time, he refused to sign this card. And so when I went to the draft in 2018, I had these three gigantic binders. Let me see if I can even find... Yeah, here's one of them. I had two binders that were this size right here. It's about, what, a 3-inch binder, maybe? Yeah, we're talking about a 3-inch binder right here. Absolutely filled with cards. I mean, you can see the pages in there, and those things all had cards on them, so it was filled up like about to there, I'd say, totally full. Had two of those, plus another notebook with cards in it. It's actually right here. This notebook looks fairly thin, but you put the cards in there, and it, balloons up to about that size, I'd say. It kind of puffs up big time there. Hauling those around with me. And so I had Hunter in there. So I'm thinking, okay, well, most players, I was putting like 2 cards of each of them in there. This is like the entire... Every NHL, AHL, ECHL, junior teams, college teams, their coaching staffs, their scouts, their front office, former players who had become agents. I think I put every team's captain in there, a whole bunch of stuff. I think I put cards of every Stars player that I had in there just in case, because you never know who's going to show up at these things. I mean, there's some players that were there that I had nothing for, and I had stuff at home for them. It's like, oh, crap, I wish I had known. But so I put in 2 cards of Hunter. I figure, you know what? I'm going to throw this one in just in case, because at the very least, he'll look at it, he'll actually say, no, I don't sign that card, and I can say, okay, fine, I can move it out of my stuff there. And who knows, maybe he's done with his embargo on it, and lo and behold, I ask, hey, Timmy, you mind signing? He's like, yeah, no problem. Takes my pen and signs that one first, followed by the other 2, and I'm just standing there just completely dumbfounded and shocked that he signed all 3 of them when he's been known for not signing this card for, 15-plus years at that point. I've seen a few others here and there come out signed, but it has been still very rare. I've only seen maybe 3 to 5 of them total done, including mine. I think mine may be the first one they signed in 15 years. So, huge sigh of relief when I was able to get that one. So, move on to the next page here. We've got Laurie Boschman and another one here from Wayne Cashman, who you saw in the other set. There we go. Those 2. Got a couple of other missing ones off of this page as well. The way that I organize most of my sets is I actually have a box that has all of my unsigned set needs in it. So I've got them all in one place. And then I just keep kind of some open spots on the pages here, as you see, like that. Moving on down, right through the middle row, Darren Kimball, Bob Nystrom, Ronnie Stern. And across the bottom, we've got Ken Baumgartner, Ken Linsman, and Kelly Chase. So Kimball, Nystrom, Stern, Baumgartner, and Chase were all by mail. Linsman was like I said, Russ helped me out with that one. We'll go ahead and show those to you. Kelly Chase was actually owner of the St. Louis Bandits in the North American Hockey League. And I tried to get him in person a few times there, but never had any luck getting him out there whenever we would make a trip there. But I eventually got him by mail, so more than happy with that. Let's see here. Next page. Bob Gassoff is one of the 2 that will be unable to ever sign this card. He died a number of years. He's actually... I think he was killed in a motorcycle accident in 1977. They retired his number later that year, but He was one of the toughest guys, they say, of the 70s. There's very little video of him out there, but I mean, 3 seasons in a row of 200-plus penalty minutes, and I mean, even his first year, he only played 28 games and still sat 84 minutes in the box. But the legends about him are plentiful, but there's very little video, unfortunately, to back any of it up. A couple other guys in here. We've got Joe Koser and Chris Nyland were both by mail. Nyland's a one-per signer, personalizes everything, but you'll get him back with a great signature. Joe Koser will likely take a while. This one took 2, maybe 3 years to get back to me, but eventually got them both, so more than happy to add those in. Let's see here. I mentioned Dave Schultz in the archive set. Great thing with this one is he added the hammer to it there as well. We also got Tony Twist and Enrico Ciccone. Show off both of those real quick. Ciccone, I actually contacted on Twitter in French, asking him if I could send this card to him and where to send it. Because I tried him back when he was working TV and got a return to sender and said with a note that said that he was no longer working there and they didn't really know where to contact him. But he's actually part of the Canadian, either the Canadian Parliament or the Quebec Parliament. But either way, I was able to contact him through Twitter, and he said, yeah, go ahead and send it. Gave me his address for it, and so I was able to send it off, get it signed, and came back to me there. So happy to get that one, and, you know, he's accessible at least there via Twitter. Across the bottom row, we've got Jay Miller, Phil Russell, and one of the other tough ones, Brian Watson. Miller and Russell are both TTM. Russell actually used to coach the Cleveland Lumberjacks for a little while. Brian Watson I had to pick up on eBay because he was said to be the other one that would not sign this card. He actually owned a pizzeria just outside Washington, I think just kind of south there into Virginia, if I remember right. And I tried TTMing him there. Never got anything back. Other people would get him back, I'd try him again, nothing. So I had started hearing rumors that, yeah, he would not sign this particular Fleer Throwbacks card, and so that may have been why I never got anything back at all, because I think that was the only card I sent each time. So eventually I was able to find this one on eBay. Signature seems to match up pretty well with his signatures, so $5 gamble to me is totally worth it to get one that I may have no other way of getting. I mean, signed in teal, not great. Don't care. I will gladly take it for this. Let's see here. We're getting down to the last 2 pages here of this set. Paul Holmgren, Garth Butcher, and Al Iafredi were all TTM. Brent Severin was in person. Ron Hextall was TTM'd. Shane Churla was a TTM, and Cam Neely was via a trade. Barclay Plager is also on this page. We also have a blank spot in the bottom that I'll try to cover up. But Plager was another one who died before the card came out. This was, let's see, I believe he died late 80s, maybe, early 90s. He has his number retired in 1992, I know, by the team. But there you go. There's that whole page. Not the greatest Cam Neely signature I've ever had, but again, I'll take it. Matches reasonably with his signature at least, so yeah, not too bad. And finally, the last page, well, basically the last page of the set. Got Ulf Samuelsson. This one was a TTM. Had a chance to get him in person, but he was trying to walk while signing. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to chase him down. Just stick with the TTM that I've got. We've got Gary Howitt. Signs everything, personalizes. He's in Arizona, I want to say. I tried TTMing him a second time here recently. Hopefully that'll come back. It seems to take a while, sometimes like 8 or 9 months. Middle row has Ben Wilson and Jack Carlson. Carlson I picked up in a trade. Wilson was a TTM. Both signed theirs in blue ballpoint pen. Kind of tough to see that Wilson there, but there you go. Zoom in on that a bit. And there's the Carlson. Carlson one came out great. You may know the name Jack Carlson because he was the only member of the Carlson brothers not to appear in the film Slapshot. He made it to the NHL, though, so I think he'll probably take that trade with no problem. And across the bottom, we've got Bob Basson, who now handles the Dallas Stars alumni organization. Gotten him in person a number of times. This one, though, was TTM back in around 2008 or 2009. And one that I got in person was Kurt Brackenbury. Don't really seem to see him signing very often. But I got lucky, and he knows Paul Baxter really well, who I mentioned before. And so Kurt came in and was doing some skating work with the Wichita Falls Wildcats team when I was still broadcasting with them during their training camp one year. And so when he comes in the day before, I'm like, I think Paul introduced me. I'm like, wait a second. Yeah, I know who you are. You know, former WHA and NHL tough guy. Yeah, of course. So went home, got my card, and I hoped he'd be back in the office the next day, and he was. And so I was able to ask him to sign it. And so there you go. Personalized there as well. It says, to To Drew, best wishes. Good luck this season, Kurt Brackenbury. So, great stuff right there. Yeah, there's a couple other cards I'm missing in there. The very last card in the set, unfortunately, Bob Probert is, of course, deceased. Had a heart attack a number of years ago. But yeah, there you go. That is the Fleer Throwbacks set from 2002-2003. Also the 2001-2002 Topps and O-Pee-Chee Archive set, and the 03-04 Choice AHL Top Prospects. So once again, thanks for tuning in here on this Show Off Sunday. We'll try to keep on doing this every week if we can. Next week, like I said, I'm probably going to try to do those old baseball unsigned cards there that were in my dad's collection. And I might try to dip into the every sport, Hall of Famers, deceased players. I just put all of them into top loaders here recently, and so it's like, you know what? Perfect time to show those off, possibly. So, once again, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button down there in the corner, and I think it's that corner. If not, it's this corner. But either way, it's somewhere down there. Check it out. Down there, that away. And so, yeah, subscribe. See all the videos here. Check out sportscardforum.com. Lots of great info and stuff on there. And we will see you next time.